Hello, good morning. Thank you for the presentation. Um, I am interested in learning more about the process of creating the artwork for the exhibition. So would you do a sketch first, and then who would put it together? Who would get the materials? Who would put it together? Is it you with other people? Just right before the exhibition opens. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Okay, yes, in this case, I had to produce a sketch before the residency, but usually I work without any sketch because the shapes come from the material that I find on site. So usually I start the research of material on site, and then during the cleaning process of all the material that I found, the shapes just start to appear in a way in my mind. But in this case, for GIF 23, I have produced a draft before, and then I start the research of material here on site in Gangneung, especially in all the coastal area, because Gangneung it's really close to the sea, and so I work directly with the beach and with all the routes that it's possible to find on the beach. So already like processed and clear by the sea. And I collect all these elements in my studio here in Gangneung, and I start to produce the sculpture. So in the last slide that you saw in the presentation, there are two photos. The first one is the making process of the sculpture. So you can see, yeah, this one. You can see the aluminum structure that I used to create like the skeleton of the creature. And then another step of the production that is the covered this aluminum structure with the plaster bandage. And so this is how I usually stabilize and create the shape of the sculpture. And then on the surface of the sculpture start to be insert all the other materials. So maybe some steel part or some wood or bones. For example, this sculpture, I have not the photo now because I'm working on in these days, but there is a part in which I found some bones on the beach, and so I use them to recreate like a back of an animal of this. It is the back of this sculpture. So the process usually is this one. So I start from the finding objects or the research of material on site, and then I work on the shape and or on the sculpture. In this case, was just quite different, but yeah, usually this is the process.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Magali, please unmute yourself.
Hi. Good morning. Thank you so much. I'm so mad at Zoom. Technical difficulties. I am fascinated by your concept of anthropocentric bias. As an art lover, I cannot make art myself, but I love art. As an art lover, could you please give us some ideas how to train our gaze to better appreciate art in general?
Of course, thank you for the question. Yeah, with anthropocentric bias, it's really what I explained in the presentation. So is our point of view that permit us to be like out of the relation with the other organisms. So every time, for example, if you think about you that like across the city, and because you have some meeting that you have to respect, and so you just across the city without pay attention to what is out of your body and out of your like daily routine. So you maybe you cannot see that there is some spider close to you that are making their spider web, or you cannot see if there is any other animal that maybe have their daily routine too. And so usually we are just focused on ourselves and not just only ourselves as an organism, so as an entity, an I, but to ourselves as a human being. So we pay attention to the other human activities, but not the other organism activities. And so how to do that? With my practice, when I have to present a workshop with some people, I start with the research of material on site, because if you have to find something that it's not really clear, because when you ask to the people, okay, you have to find some ruin, they are just like, what are ruin? Why do I have to collect some waste from the ground? Because and the eyes are not training to find this type of objects. So they have really to pay attention to the surrounding and to the plate, to the space, to catch all this little detail and maybe find some piece of steel that is like just laying on the down in the middle of the street, or find some roots, because usually they are not they have not this necessity to find it. And so the best way, I think, and I already tried with my workshop with the Seoul Institute of the Arts student, is to discovering again the space that maybe we already know with this type of eyes. So searching for ruins. And in this case, after you collected some of them, some ruins in the studio, I usually ask to all the people to describe the object and the material that they found, particularly to pay attention if there are any traces that are part of others' organism lives, such as, for example, the wall of the woodworm or mosses and stuff like that. And in this case, in this process, in the end, of course, they are more aware of this dynamics, otherness, a dynamic, but it's not easy to change like a point of view of a person in their entire life. But during the moment and the time of the workshop, this is the point.
Thank you very much. Okay. Before we come back to the living room, Arti, hi. Thanks for tuning in. Arti? Because there is another question from the virtual living room.
Okay.
Okay, I see a guy moving. Hi.
Hi, Raffaella. Can you hear us?
Yes, perfectly
Yes.
clear.
Okay, so first, Camilla, thank you so much for your presentation and sharing your experiences with us. I have, as you can see, we have faculty and some students here, and we really enjoyed your talk. One of my students would like to ask you, are there any symbolic meanings of using the metals as the supports of the sculpture while having natural resources such as woods at the top?
Okay, there is not really a symbolic meaning, but is because of the how to say, useful structure that can be done with the aluminum, because it's really easy to manipulate and allow me to create a really articulate shape, because have you seen my work have this organic form, and it's not really easy to create this type of assemblage with other type of materials. So, and another point, there is another problem of the rust, because for I use the plaster bandage, I have to immerse them into the water, and so there is all the making process that it's really related with the like a high humidity level. And so with wood or with iron or with other element, I could have some problem in this type of making process. So the aluminum wire is the best choice that I have to create this type of work. So it's not really like a symbolic meaning, but it's more related to the possibility that the material give me in this case.
Thank you. And we come back to the living room. Yes, please, Olga.
It works.
I think so.
You can hear me? I don't know
Yes.
if I should stand or not. Hopefully I won't get lost in my thoughts. So we are
coming from a very technical question to more philosophical one. Your works, first of all, thank you for your presentation. It's really interesting to look in a world of artists, and your works are very thought-provoking. So when you see something, you ask yourself questions, and then comes another question: is it made on purpose? And so, did you create this art to make us think of something? And then comes the other question that is my real question, actually. Do you believe as an artist in purpose in art, your art or art in general? And if you do believe, how do you formulate it for yourself? Just a general philosophical question.
Wow, what a question. Okay, I try to answer it. Thank you. Yes, as I said, for me, art it's really a tool, a powerful tool for change something. Not because the art and in general my research can give like the direct answer to some problem, because I think that it's not the aim of the art, but it's because the art is possible, have this possibility to open some discussion space in which the attention of a public, so maybe a big public, can be focused on one of the problem of the human beings or like our contemporary age. So I think that when art is able to do this process is like a good art. So for me, it's really, it's not related with activism, but it's really a strong power that is in all the hands of all the artists to open and to create during an exhibition or during a talk or during a lecture, a speech. So everything that is related with the art, during a performance, maybe you can really create like a space that is in a certain way like a magic space. So it's really powerful, and you can just give to all the people to be part of this space and this like ritual, maybe, because I conceive my work as my making process of the sculpture as like a ritual. So when I have to share my practice with a group of people, maybe during workshop, I really pay attention to have this ritual feeling that are common to all of us, so just not only me, but I would like that all the participants to a workshop are aware that what we are doing in that specific moment is not like is not a playground, but we try to create something that could have sense and could be useful for my life and for the life of all the other participants. So I think that this is the point of the art. And in my case, every time that I create something, I not consider the sculpture, all the sculpture, as an object, but as really a creature or a potential symbol. So in which all the detail can tell something about the creature that I create, or about the process that I did for making the sculpture. And so it was just like, how to say, like a poem. So every sculpture for me, it's like a poem that tells something about the creature and about the story of the creature. So the specific place in which I collect the object, the collaborative process that I engage with other organisms, maybe with bees and wasps and all the other organisms that are involved in my work. And so in my mind, and I know that it's not like a common vision to all artists, but in my mind, the art have to be powerful in the meaning of imagining a future vision that could help us to not find an answer, but create the right place to find the answer that we need.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really great.
Much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Otherwise, I have one that I never asked you while we were preparing this.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it just came to my mind now.
Okay,
and,
it's the moment.
Yes, I take the chance. Because during your talk now, you mentioned, of course, this, you just mentioned it again, this collaborative process between you and the creatures or the moles or whatever, that are collaborating in creating the work. And you said, for instance, that wasps helps you in a certain way, or whatever, other animals. But you didn't say, and I'm so curious now, why the silkworms?
Oh, yeah, this is a good question. Oh, because the aim of that project, so of Serico, was to put in dialogue two different constructive methods. So the human one, so my constructive method that because I built the sculpture in the beginning, and then I needed another species that built directly their own words. And I had to choose spider or silkworm, because are the, how to say, most common species that create and build a sort of architecture, like an organic architecture. And the spider just really scare me a lot. I'm so fascinated by them, but I have to say, really a weird feeling. We have a strange relationship. So I decided to collaborate with silkworm, and because they are easier to not control, because it's impossible to control another species, but just to create the perfect living space for them. And so I create this sculpture with an organic shape. So it's a shape that for the silkworm is not so common. And so during the entire their life, when they were like worms, they start to eat for all the days, and then when they had to start their metamorphosis into a butterfly, they start to analyze the space. And so I remember that during this time, they start to across the space of the sculpture, just like 3 times in a day, to find the right place in which they can hang and they can create the cocoon. And so what's really interesting for me to see which is the relation and in which way they find another way to construct their cocoons related to the structure that I built before. And so I choose silkworm for this reason, but I think that it's one of the best species to see this type of relation, to study the space and to constructing, and not constructing, but responding with a constructive method that is related to the space that they have around.
Thank you. Now I know. There is another question coming from Artie.
Okay.
Sorry, coming from Beijing, from the school.
Yep. So
Thank you.
my student, yes, thank you. My student is curious if you have other inspirations besides nature, specifically other artworks or styles.
Okay, yes, I think the inspiration just come into my mind with different fields. So starting from of course, nature, but with the mechanical engine. So there are some part of my work that I use some like engine part that come from a car engine, for example, and other. Yeah, the first inspiration for my work, because I start with the analysis of the architecture, was related with the architectural field. And one of my how to say reference figure at that time was Kiesler. So the crazy architecture that they usually build with like a waste material that he can find around their place. And now it's more related. I think that I have not really a reference figures. I have a lot of artists one of the most important for me is Margaret Humeau, that create this organic shape with, in that case, with a 3D printer. But usually I try to find my inspiration to the shape that come from the other lives. So all my sculpture and my painting and my embroidery have this weird shape that come from the mix of different forms that come from maybe bones of the body, or like roots of the trees, or like the mycelium of the fungi. So it's really different, but I'm interested in this type of shape, and every time I try to mix all together this form, in which, because in the end the public have not to recognize the shape, but have to know once again the shape of the sculpture. So when you meet one of my creature, what I would like to have to you, it's just not, oh, okay, this is a horse, this is a plant. No, I would like that the public start to discover the body of the sculpture, maybe recognize some object that litter the surface of the sculpture. But every time you have to be, how to say, confused, because for you it's impossible to define what is this shape. So this is one of the most important thing of my work. I try to create something that cannot be defined, because the monster and the hybrid creature have this power to be something that escape from this necessity and this possibility to be like to like just only a name. It's impossible to give a name to something that you cannot really define.
Thanks. And we're flying so high, and now I will ask you such a, you know, a down to earth question, but it came again to my mind right now. What about the preservation of your works?
The preservation.
Yes.
Yes, it depends from the work. So, for example, the work that I show with the mosses and with the plants, it depends maybe from the collector. So if someone is interested to buy the work, there is a problem. So they are interested to have a work alive, so with an organism inside, or just the structure that is already manipulated by the other species, but without the relation with the other species. So every time there is this big problem for me related to the work with some alive organism inside, because, you know, when I leave some organisms for an exhibition, so inside a new space, for me, I'm just quite worried, because it's not just only a work of art. It's just not only an object, but it's a space, a living space. So a live space. So every time I have to convince maybe the gallerist or the collector to be aware of what they have in their hands. So it's not just only something you can forget, but you have to pay attention to all the other live organisms inside the sculpture. If there are some plants, you have to put some water on the plant, and so you have to engage a relationship with the sculpture. And so this is one of the problems. And in the second end, so with the Unbinding Creature series, for example, the sculpture are made from ruined objects, so the object that had already a story, but they are not still alive, so they are not still in metamorphosis. So it's just like a sculpture, a creature with all the detail, but there is not this metamorphical process that are ongoing. And so really it depends. There are some work, for example, the Serico sculpture with the silk, because now all the silkworm abandon their place because become butterfly, and so it remains just only the sculpture with the silk and with all the cocoons. And to preserve it is just you have to close it in a plexiglass box or like a glass box, because there is not really a problem with the time, but it's a problem the powder. Because if yes, this is the only problem. So it depends from the work. Every time I have to find a way to resolve something with a different situation.
So which is interesting, and because in the collaborative process, you add also the viewer.
Yes, of course.
Actively, yeah.
Yes, it's just like a process in which I try to train myself to lose control on what I do usually, because I am a person that usually try to control everything. I'm really human in this sense, because I try to pay attention to everything, and everything have to be perfect. But collaborate with someone else, it's mean that, okay, you cannot have all the situation under your control, but you have to trust in the work of the other, and just let's see what's happened, and it's okay, because it's life, is not a big deal.
Thank you. Yes, please. Thanks.
Hi, can you hear me, Camilla?
Yes.
Hi, sorry, I'm here in the back. Hi. Nice to meet you. I have a question, because you're a very young generation and you do this beautiful, very traditional art. But you just mentioned 3D printing, and I'm curious about how your generation as an artist sees AI, 3D printing, all these new technologies. Is this something you're scared of? Is it something you excited about, something you will start maybe in the future webbing in? So like, yeah, how is your generation thinking about this entire new world which is coming up?
Okay, thank you for the question, and nice to meet you too. Okay, so I can talk for myself. So I know that there are a lot of artists now that concentrate their research on the AI or like ChatGPT, and so all the other entities that this contemporary AI has generated. But in my case, I think that we have to be aware that all this technology and informatic field, it's related with the organic field. So a lot of artists, and in general a lot of people, when they talk about the web, the connection and internet, think that is just like we have this idea of internet like a cloud, so another word like the digital world. Okay, but we have to keep in our mind that the digital word is not another word, but is based on this physical word. So if we lose this physical word, we lose the digital one too. So they are really related. So every time that someone work directly with this type of entity, I think that have to be clear in their mind that this is the starting point. So it's not really different. So it of course, they are other entities that at the moment are not really how to say, powerful entities. So it's just like they respond to our, I don't know, maybe words or input. So they are not just only other creature at the moment, but of course it's something that it could be really interesting. And I answer to your question with an image that it comes from Timothy Morton, like philosophy and theory, that is related with this uncanny valley. I don't know if you know what is it, but in one of his book, he presents this image of like a land with two hills, in which there is if you stay on the hill, you can see just only some fog that cover the land. But if you just immersed inside the land and inside this fog, you can meet other entities, and other entities are both organic, are informatic, are technological, are everything. So is the hybrid word. And I think that today, all the artists, if you work with the organic world or if you work in the technological world, I think that we have to stay inside this type of fog. So we have to be present and meet both the entity. So of course, it's really interesting, but we have to be aware of our nature, like not nature, sorry, our origin that is organic. We stay in this world. We need to eat some food, to drink water. So we need something that comes from like the physical world, but we can manage and create a relation with this type of entities that are other than us. And so I think that this is the best image that we have to describe the contemporary age and to be aware of the path that we have to follow, or we can follow if you want, of course.
Thank you very much. And we have one question from Alex.
Okay.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, really clearly.
Okay, hi. Hello from Bangkok. Hi, Camilla. Thank you very much for introducing us to your art, and your answers are super interesting. And yeah, thank you. Listen, I have it came up in your answers quite a lot. So my question, and it just popped into my head right away when I listened to you. You mentioned the collaboration and coexistence as like a core of your work on your art. And you're an Italian lady living in Korea. Yeah. And many of us, I guess, in the room are from somewhere, living somewhere. And we're trying to figure out this, kind of idea of belonging all the way through. And my question is, do you think consciously or unconsciously, do you transfer somehow your ideas from your art into the human ability of connection, coexistence, and collaboration?
Wow. How to say? I hope. Of course, I'm not sure to how to say, to be really, to create something that it's really physical. But I hope that because I come from another country and so I belong into another type of culture, and all my work, I think that come from like a family heritage, of course. So I think that with this residency, and it's for this reason that for me the artistic residency are so important, spread all around the world. So after here in Korea, I have to go to Chile for another residency. So for me, it's really important to move around the world, because I have to mix my origin with all the other concepts that I can learn and I can find. Exactly, it's the same process that I usually do with the ruins. So I have to collect something, not just only physical stuff, but both theoretical stuff. And I have to create my research with a mixture of all this stuff. Every time I'm like a mixture, not just only take something and just put together without any sense, but to create an harmony with all this little detail that you collect from your travel, from your experience, from your work. And so I think that it's really important. And of course, I hope that when I meet some people, when I do some workshop with the public, how to say, preserve some of the theme that we discussed during our workshop. So I hope that this could be really become something effective, so physically, that can change directly something. Every time I have this, how to say, hope in my mind, but I'm not sure, but this is my mood, just to collect something, so both physical or not. But every time I really pay attention to the to the situation in which I immerse. So in this case, Korea, and this is my second time here in Korea. The first time I spent a lot of time in Seoul and in Ansan, so it's really close to Seoul. And now and then I moved to Gwangju for the Biennale, and so I see another another face of South Korea, and now I'm in another city. So every time I try to discover something that is for me new, because it means that you have to put yourself in a situation that is not safe. So you have to study, you have to learn, and every time your point of view it's under discussion. So it's not stable. And this is the point of my research, because I'm human and I need to put myself under discussion and under in a metamorphical process as my creature.
Thank you. Thanks. That's
Thank
very
you.
interesting.
And if there are no other questions, I'm back. I think we can say class dismissed. Can you hear me? Yes? Class dismissed.
Yes. Thank you very much for the question and for your attention, really.
Thank you very much. Stay with me 2 more minutes and then we all leave. So again, thank you so much, Camilla, for being our guest speaker today. Thanks again to the Italian Cultural Institute in Seoul for giving us the patronage of this event. And thank you so much. Thanks a lot to Arti, to the Beijing National Day School. I'm so happy that you tuned in. I hope you will be with us again next month. And thanks to Magali, our connecting node in Shanghai. Thank you. Thanks, Beijing.
Thank
Thanks, Shanghai.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bangkok.
Bye. Have a nice day. Thank you.
See you next month.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.